Right, today I'm going to make a Darkhold prop. This is not so much something that's meant to be for cosplay. I actually made this to be displayed on Halloween. The patterns for this are up on Facebook for free. There's a link below. We'll be getting back to the Mandalorian soon, do not fear. And without me rambling anymore, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. Okay, I cut out the patterns for the cover, 1, 2, and 3, inside of one another so that they will fit back together nicely. Being that this particular book is so warped and melted and burnt and chipped and slagged and whatever else, I didn't actually use a ruler and an X-Acto knife, nor did I cut it with scissors. I just did it freehand with my X-Acto knife. It's pretty straight, but not perfectly straight, and I think that'll help the overall look. And what I'm going to do is basically layer them like that. And once I get this lined up, I want it with sort of a step look to it, basically just a millimeter or so of contact around it. Make sure that's a straight. I suppose it doesn't really matter. Again, since this book is so warped and melted. And I'm just going to use super glue. Not actually going to contact cement this. Super glue is faster, and I don't need a flexible bond. We're not making like a... It's going to take a minute since I kind of just lobbed a bunch of super glue in there for that to actually set. In the meantime, I am going to apply some pressure just to help make sure everything bonds and the sides are all touched. Use my hot glue gun to put some hot glue around it. As the super glue apparently leaked through, it stuck to the paint and peeled the paint off, which I'm actually happy that happened because I would hate to have to be picking plastic off of this. And I've cut 2 number 5s and 1 number 4 out of the 6mm foam, and I'm going to take my Dremel and sand and round out the edges of these. Before I actually glue these on, I need to trace around the holes in the centers of these and kind of mark where I want the center spirals to be. Alright, I glued those in place over my little hot glue spirals with super glue. Now that this stuff is glued on, I'm going to start cutting out strips of 2mm EVA foam, and I'm going to cut those strips probably about 5 to 8mm thickness at the top, and just let them kind of fan out. I have a bunch of random strips of 2mm to start with. You don't need multicolors, I just did that so it would show up a little better on camera. And I'm just going to glue them on again with super glue, not much contact cement in this build. These pieces up here, I just kind of wrapped around and glued. The ones on the bottom, I let stick out. And then I glued on my number 6 and number 7 pieces, which are also 6mm EVA foam. I did glue them a little offset though. And the 8 was 2mm. And the 9 will get glued right there. After that, I'm going to use my hot glue gun to make a straight border going around the edge of this. Cut out 6 number 10 pieces out of 6mm and 2 of the number 11s. They're going to go up here, and these 10s I'm going to kind of randomly, well, not so randomly, place along the sides. Got all my 10s glued on. Ended up doing 7 total because I did 2 more over here. Almost missed that. Now I'm going to do my hot glue border. once that cools, I'm going to use my Dremel with a cutting wheel to put some custom gouges and stuff in here. Cut some cracks in here and heated them with a heat gun to get that to expand. Then all these that I sawed in, and as I'm doing this I think it's funny, like there's kind of at some point or another going to be every single weathering or stressing or whatever technique. Next I'm going to use some Mod Podge Dimensional Magic to put some zigzag textures on the little blocks. And to put some little zigzags along the tiles, and just did some other blobs and weathering and stuff. It's set overnight, and when this stuff dries, it dries clear and quite hard actually, which is nice. And now I'm going to take my pattern number 12, which is going to go here and then fold up and glue to the side and the top, and my 14s, which will end up going on here, and the 13, which is 6mm, I'll just kind of get glued down into there. To seal this, I'm just going to use Mod Podge and a brush and just kind of blot it on. I just could not take looking at all those colors anymore. It was making my head hurt. So after 2 dabbed layers of Mod Podge, I went ahead and just painted it matte black. And now we're going to move on to the rest of this finally. Okay, I have the back cover. If you're not making your own patterns and you're downloading mine, you're going to need to attach the bottom piece since it goes off of a letter sheet. And there's also the side pieces, and the shorter ones are going to go on the bottom, the longer ones are going to go on the top. To glue these together, I'm going to use contact cement. How it works is I brush it on the surfaces to be bonded, let it sit for 15 minutes or so until it cures. Once it is, and the pieces are dry to the touch, it's ready to be stuck together. I've already done this and waited the 15 minutes, so I'm going to start over here, about 5-6 millimeters from the top. If you're going to actually put pages in your book, which clearly I'm not since I did this, this is going to hold my battery packs for the lights. And I also want to put in the center a little styrofoam box that I could put dry ice in, so that as it dissipates, the foggy tendrils could come out of the various cuts and things I'm going to end up putting in this. All right, I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, and along these 3 sides I'm going to start to put some cuts. I'm going to do this all the way around, and then I'm going to heat all the cuts up with my heat gun so that they open up. Okay, I've heated this and also kind of warped it a bit. This is to give it kind of a wrinkled look because I'm going to glue some fake pieces along here to represent pages as well. And for those, I'm going to cut them out of a sheet of 2mm EVA foam. And I'm just going to do them kind of jagged and zigzaggy and then heat them and warp them. My fake pages have been glued on, and I heated them first prior to gluing them on, and it is starting to look a little bit more like a book. Alright, I've cut out my spine pattern, and I used an X-Acto knife to cut some shapes in it, and then just did a little bit of texturing and stuff. And now I'm going to glue this onto the back, but first I cut out a slot to let the light through. I didn't anticipate on doing that. I was just going to cut through both layers, and I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been rather hard and probably wouldn't have got very much light through that if I hadn't. So once I glue that on, I'm going to again seal this with a brush and get ready to put it together and finish this. Okay, it's been sealed, primered, and now I'm going to take some 1/3 inch thick styrofoam sheets that I cut to make a little box with, and I'm going to use my hot glue gun to glue this together. Alright, this little box is to serve two purposes. One, just to kill some of the dead space so the light can reflect out, but you'll see that there's gaps at the corners of this, and that was intentional. The idea is that I could put a small hunk of dry ice in here with it lit up and have that kind of billowing out with like a fog effect with lights. Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't, but if nothing else, it'll help reflect the light out. And now I'm going to take my lights, which are just battery-powered red LEDs. These batteries here, unfortunately, are going dead. As you can tell the difference probably. Oh yeah, wow, huge difference. But I'm going to go ahead and glue the packs and the lights. Alright, lights have been glued in place. Use some low temp hot glue to just hold the wires down, and I super glued both the battery packs in place, and I can still get the shield off and replace the batteries. Now I'm going to use some scrap leather straps, probably 2 or 3, to make a hinge for this. 3 straps, contact cemented in. Put this aside. It is now ready to be hand painted. Before I do that, I'm going to start making some pages. I'm not sure exactly how many or what all I'm going to do, but I'm going to make more than one. Even if I only make one, I may make a mistake or just not like it and want to redo it. So I have an old cookie sheet and some plain white paper and some coffee. You could also use tea. I watered down the coffee a bit so it's not quite as dark, and I'm just going to pour it. Depending on how dark you want them, there are several things you could do. One is dump off some of the excess or all of the excess, or leave it all on there and just let it sit outside in the sun if it happens to be warm where you're at in the area of the world and sunny, and it will dry pretty quickly and will leave a very unique and natural looking weathering to it and make the pages nice and dark. Or you can just get some beige paper, I guess. Well, this is going to be painted with inexpensive acrylic craft paints. I took some moccasin brown and thinned it out into basically a wash that I'm just going to brush on lightly. And I have some sandstone to put on top of that, and then some white. I'll probably combine with some sandstone to put on the actual pages. Okay, I'm finished with painting this. However, it does still need to dry, but the pages are dry, and that means I can start on them while I wait for this to finish drying up. Okay, first thing, tear the edge off the paper, and I'm going to use a black Sharpie and a dark brown Sharpie to kind of go along the edges at various points to make it look kind of burned and charred. Okay, so I suppose for purposes of the video, this is done. Although I have a feeling I'm going to figure out some way to attach this to something more permanent, so it actually sits in here solid instead of just having a piece of paper lay here. And I also want to illustrate the opposing page and probably mount it here so that when you open it up you don't see this, obviously. I did put a little bit of hot glue here just to make these more sturdy too. I don't think I actually mentioned that. But yeah, for the sake of the video, this is pretty much done. Like everything else, I'm just going to work at the comfort of a desk on this. But hopefully this gives you a good head start for your own project or a similar project if you want to make something like this. And of course, there's a lot of variations you could do with this. For example, I've gotten a lot of questions about this, and a lot of the things I used to make this, I used in this. However, this actually has pages in all of it. There's no fake pages or anything, also no lights. So, you know, taking this as a base pattern, you could shorten this down and illustrate and make your own pages and not go with an all foam prop like this. Well, mostly foam. Well, I actually did end up attaching the page in just by gluing a strip of 2mm foam to the back of the page itself and then gluing the foam to the frame of the book. One thing I've realized is probably going to need to open the gaps a little bit more and take a piece of my styrofoam and make a lid for the event that I actually do put some dry ice in here, just because the cold and any moisture will probably mess up this page. And that was part of the reason why I didn't really want to put this in permanently. But the other thing I could always do is just make an insert as well to cover this whenever I display it on Halloween. At least that's the idea. And as you notice, I didn't do anything to the back. That's because this is meant to be displayed on a table. However, since this is all flat, if, for example, my wife or even myself would want to cosplay something where I would want to use this as a prop, I can always just build a false back and attach it on. And if I do that, I will, of course, put patterns up and a link to it. Whether or not I do a video, I don't know, but I will at least put up the patterns. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to be getting back to the Mandalorian soon and finish that up, at least in terms of the spats and the spear. So as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you're not subscribed, and as always, have a great day.